You are not a real introvert. If you were, you would not be here indirectly socializing with me and thousands of other people watching. And I mean, I'm not an introvert either, because if I were, then how could I possibly even consider filming myself like this and make it public for the world to see? Oh, and the self-proclaimed introverted famous people like Emma Watson or Elon Musk and Clint Eastwood, who spend all that time in the spotlight. Yeah, right. Introvert my ass. I've probably received 100 comments of some version of this in my YouTuber lifetime. Let's talk about that and a few other things. Learning about introversion has helped me in 3 ways mainly. It has helped me understand myself, it has made me feel normal, and it has helped me accept myself. Oh, and let's do a bonus one. It has opened up a world of memes that are quite enjoyable. And those are all good things, and they're important. But because I am the way that I am, and I like to question the heck out of things until I don't even know what to believe, I can't help but wonder if this label that I have put on myself, namely introvert, and if labels in general have any downsides. And I think that they could have, and I can think of 2 ways. So firstly, when they make us box ourselves and others in, and secondly, when we use that label as a safety blanket. So this could look something like, I am an X person, so I like doing XYZ because that's what X people do. And taking that a step further is trying to box other people in as well. And so I see this happening quite often on social media with various ist and ism labels, where some people will put on the role of the label police. And it's the whole, well, I am doing X this way, which is the right way, and so that's how everyone else should be doing it. But back to how we box ourselves in, because after all, that's all that we can control. Now, why do we create this box? So I think that part of it is due to the media that we consume, whether that is memes or forums or articles, where the idea of what and how said label means and is supposed to be lived is being reinforced in our minds, and it becomes the story that we tell ourselves and about how we are supposed to be. So speaking of memes, let's take that as an example. So I like memes, a lot of people do, and I can get lost in scrolling for way longer than I should, just nodding my head thinking, that's so true and that's so me. So let's look at some introvert memes. So they're all kind of funny, many of them feel relatable, and I would say that it's harmless fun, something that you look at for a second or two and then forget about as you move on to the next one. Now, we all know that memes are exaggerated and very stereotypical, but they are also often spot on. So, for instance, what these memes tell us is that introverts avoid people, that we want to stay at home, that we make excuses to avoid socializing, and that we don't like people, and so on. And now you may be thinking, well, all of that is actually really what I'm like, I don't see the problem. In which case, that's valid, there may not be a problem, but I think that it's worth it to sometimes ask the question, am I relating to this idea, or am I reinforcing this idea? And if I'm reinforcing it, could that potentially be a bad thing? So here's an example from my life. There has been many times when I've been asked to go to a social event where my default attitude, without giving it any real thought, as if I've just been on autopilot, has been, I'm not going. Why? Because in my mind, I'm not someone who likes going on social events, and I'm someone who hates small talk, and I would rather just stay at home. Now, all of that may be fully true, or it may be partly true, but it may also not be, at least not entirely. It could just be the story that I've told myself about who I am and how I'm supposed to be because of this label that I have put on myself. Because if you tell yourself enough times, I am not this kind of person, or I am this kind of person, then that is exactly what you will be or not be. So I invite you to pick any of the labels that you put on yourself and pick a scenario like the example that I just gave and ask yourself, is this something that you know for sure, or is this a self-imposed belief, one that may not be entirely true? So I loathe the idea of being viewed as some sort of victim in society, and I strongly disagree with the idea that introverts somehow are. I will say, however, that Western society, especially in schools and in the workplace, at least in my days and in my experience, are mostly built for the extroverted person. So I remember at one of my workplaces, I liked taking like 10-minute breaks once a day to just be alone. And I would sit on the sofa, I would eat some yogurt, and I would just read some random stuff on my phone. And I thoroughly enjoyed, those 10 minutes. However, my manager kept asking if I was okay, even though I explicitly said one time that, oh, I'm just taking my introvert recharge time. I know that it was well intended and I appreciate that, but it also kind of made me feel like I was weird for just wanting a few minutes alone. If I had spent those 10 minutes socializing with colleagues, then I would have never been questioned. So I can definitely see why, if you're introverted, you may feel like you can simply be yourself. Now, that's only one of many, many examples. Don't even get me started on my school years. But, and this is where I would like to make an important distinction. It could have also been the case that I took those 10-minute breaks because I felt too anxious or scared to talk to anyone else, in which case we would no longer be talking about introversion, because introversion says, I am content with my solitude, I choose it. Social anxiety, for example, says, I wish that I could do X, but I am held back by fear. So in any situation, I think that we should ask ourselves, is this a choice based on preference, or is this a choice based on fear? So should we even bother with labels at all then? So to go back to the beginning of this video, actually, I can sit here and film myself for thousands of people to watch, and I can go out with friends and I can socialize and I can stand on stage and I can network, and I can also stay at home all day and not see anyone for a week, and I can take my 10-minute solo breaks. The point being that I can do whatever the hell I want to do and still be introverted, and so can you. But if I feel like I can't, like if I were to feel like this label or any label that I had put on myself is actually holding me back, then I would just ditch it. I like when Eckhart Tolle said that, give up defining yourself, to yourself or to others. You won't die, you will come to life. And don't be concerned with how others define you. When they define you, they are limiting themselves, so it's their problem. And that's my 2 cents.